From the worldwide headquarters of More Sports and Les-Levine, it's a Tuesday night. Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to More Sports and Les-Levine into its 24th consecutive year and seen exclusively on cleveland.com. Well, not only are we on cleveland.com, we're in the middle of Indianapolis where the Combine is going on, the 2020 NFL Combine. Our own Dave Bacon is in the middle of it all. David, how are you? Looks like you made it safely.
We did. Downtown Indianapolis, the convention center. We're on the second floor. All of the player availabilities and all the other things that will be happening right below us on the first floor. Today was media availability for players, coaches, some of the quarterback prospects, general managers. So a busy day with a lot of people to talk to.
Well, it seems to me this Combine this year snuck up on us quickly. Is that just me, or did that really happen? I think part of it is because of the lateness in getting a head coach.
Well, and again, it's another reboot where you have a general manager search that went on for a while and a head coaching search that went on for a while after the end of the season. So when you do those things, the rest of the league year sneaks up on you like the Combine. So the Browns are hoping to end that cycle, obviously, with Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski taking over as the general manager and head coach.
Yeah. So tell me, and by the way, Andrew Berry was featured on the Today Show today, which I thought was rather interesting. They played up the fact he's the youngest general manager in history, but it doesn't seem that way to us because he's been here before.
Well, again, he's a young guy, and yeah, it was kind of funny. He was asked about it. He hasn't watched it. Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, thought he did a great job and handled himself very well. But you tend to forget just how young both the head coach and the general manager for the Browns are. So Jimmy Haslam hoping these two can grow together and finally get something straightened out and a winning football team put back on the field for the Cleveland Browns.
The Stefanski, the old man of the bunch at 37, and of course Andrew Berry at 32. All right, so things heat up tomorrow. Of course, Joe Burrow is not going to show his wares tomorrow. There's nothing he can prove, so I don't blame him for that. Do you?
Not at all. You know, the one thing that you hear about Joe Burrow, he handled the interview situation with the media just really well. Very impressive. He's the kind of guy that you want as the face of your franchise. That's what you're hearing time and time again from people that watched the way he handled himself with the national media today in the media availability window. Quarterbacks went today, and really the top three, Tua along with Jalen Hurts, all handled themselves very well.
All right, so mostly this has changed over the years. I think now it's more important to be involved in the interviews by the teams and the players and some of the other reads that they have. But you don't have that many guys pushing themselves higher into the action on the draft list, or do they?
Well, what they do normally is it'll come on their pro days where they will have scouts in their environment and they can control the situation more. And they have so much tape on these guys. Anything that they do here, it's not going to change drastically. What will change is how they handle themselves in the one-on-one interviews with the teams, which are limited to 18 minutes now, and also the medical reports. They have all the medical reports they want in one area in depth, and they can have their team doctors take a look at areas that are of concern. So those are the main things, the interviews and the medical reports, and having their team doctors look at any questionable areas.
I think the Browns have one of the bigger contingents there. Is that correct, of scouts and coaches?
It does appear that way. The Browns, you know, they're trying to get everybody on the same page, moving in the right direction, and it's kind of interesting. You kind of heard, you know, they want alignment, leads you to believe that in the past that alignment wasn't there with Freddie-Kitchens, John Dorsey, and before that, and we knew that was somewhat the case. But when you hear it repeatedly, it leads you to believe that it was even more out of whack than we initially thought.
Yeah, but you would like to have some differing views out there. You don't want everything rubber stamped either.
Well, I don't think that's what they mean by alignment. There will be, you know, the disagreements that are healthy, but at the end of the day, you have to have people that aren't trying to undermine. You know, in other words, personnel can't undermine the coach. Coach can't sit around and say, well, if you gave me better players, I'd coach them better.
All right, so of course the coach and the general manager got to speak in front of the local media and anybody else, any other interested parties. Did either of them say anything that we haven't heard before over the last couple of weeks?
No, the one thing that is very apparent is I believe they have a plan without question, but I don't think they're going to tell anybody what that plan is, and as it relates not only to who they're going to target in free agency and who they're going to draft. Andrew Berry wouldn't even address what areas in the draft he thought were strengths. The consensus is offensive line, wide receiver, 2 deep positions in this draft. He wouldn't even go down that road. And when pressed, he said, look, it's a competitive advantage for us to hold it close to what we're doing, and it will also play itself out in who we target in free agency.
Yeah, well, that's probably more true when they have the first, second, or third pick. When they have the 10th, I don't think they're giving away too much information.
Well, the one thing is if they sit there and say, well, we think it's a deep offensive tackle class, somebody who likes it at 7, 8, 9 might take the guy they want. I get what they're doing. It's very different than John Dorsey and Freddie-Kitchens and the way they addressed it and talked about it at the Combine a season ago, though.
All right, who are you going to have for us as we go down throughout the show? You're going to talk to a lot of people. Give us an idea of who we'll be speaking to.
We'll hear from Ben Lieber, who is a reporter for the Vikings website. He played for Kevin Stefanski as a linebacker in the Vikings when Kevin was just coming into the league as a young assistant coach. He's a guy that's gotten to know Kevin really well. It gives us a unique perspective of Kevin Stefanski, the guy that the Browns are hiring as their head coach. We'll also hear from Tony Rizzo, a guy that's been around as long as we have covering the Browns, referencing the 100 Years' Wars. The Browns try to get it right and get things done. We'll also hear from Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski as well as they address the media here in Indianapolis today.
Very good. Dave Bacon in Indianapolis today with us, and he'll take us throughout whatever is out there at the convention center. That's in Indianapolis, Indiana. Perfect location for it. The Ohio Lottery has paid out over $1 billion over the last 6 months. People are winning in record numbers, and winning is happening all around the state. Play an Ohio Lottery game and play it today. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/more-sports-and-les-levine with new content posted each and every day. When we get back, Dave Bacon will set it up. Kevin Stefanski talks from the Combine. More Sports and Les Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions, or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had 2 choices. I was accepted into a 4-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I think we've worked really hard to make sure that we're diligent about the process and started with watching our own players and making sure we had a good feel for them, and then moving on to free agency and now moving on to the draft. So I think we've been methodical in that approach and been making sure that we spend as much time as we need to get it right.
How's your correspondence with Baker been so far?
Good, just like I'd say the rest of our guys. I've tried to get in touch with each of them via text or a phone call or FaceTime or whatever it may be. So I think it's important to start developing those relationships with each one of our guys. Yeah, I think listen, injuries are part of the NFL and rehab's part of the NFL, so those guys are going to do everything in their power to get back as quickly as they can, but I can promise you that with those two guys in particular and our medical staff, they'll make sure that they do it the right way. But, it's a challenge, as you say, but I think it's something that you have to deal with year in and year out, and have spoken to both those guys about it and how they have to be very proactive about learning the system maybe when you're not getting reps due to an injury. Yeah. So with each of our players, and you mentioned Alex and talking about Baker, we've had conversations with each of our coaches about their players, because when they come back in the building on April 6th, we're going to give them tangible things that we want them to work on. So they will get something that, here's what you need to work on, here's what you need to improve, and here's how you're going to do it. So that's no different than really across our roster. Well, at this point in the offseason, we can't really talk football with our guys, so I think April 6th is that big day there in the calendar where our guys get back in the building, we can start to have those conversations.
Kevin, you have two talented running backs in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. How do you plan on utilizing both of those players in your offense?
Yeah, I think the more the merrier. Give us as many good players as you can when you're talking about offense. I know there's one ball, but if you can have couple running backs, couple tight ends, couple receivers, we'll always take it. So it's our job to figure out how to use those guys. I'm not going to get into specifics, but just like every roster, you're always have an area that you want to improve going into an off season, and that's, I would venture to say, is no different than everybody. But that's where the most important part when we first got in the building was understanding what we have, and that spent some time to watch all that tape and each of our position coaches watching their position, because you have to have an intimate knowledge of your group before you move forward with your plans.
Kevin Stefanski, of course, the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Dave Bacon is in Indianapolis for us today as the Combine really gets underway in earnest tomorrow. Dave, when you listen to what Stefanski said, and I know we'll listen to Andrew Berry also, they're kind of generic things that they say, but each coach, each year, each regime plays it takes the same statement and plays it a little differently once they get into the building.
Yeah, the one thing is he's not making any promises. He's not sitting here saying we're going to do this, we're going to be a playoff team, we're going to do it. He's very controlled, methodical, even-keeled. And the people that you talk to nationally say Kevin Stefanski is a guy who's really bright and has very little, if no, ego. The one thing that he did mention is he's trying to work through whether he or offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt will call the plays. And he said they could, in fact, have Alex Van Pelt call the plays during preseason, and then he might decide in the regular season that he calls it. So it's a work in progress, and they're going to come to a decision that is the best for the Browns.
What do you think the advantage is to have Van Pelt call it during the 4 exhibition games and then just turn around and switch it to the coach? Obviously, the coach wants to see how he handles the rest of the being a head coach before he settles in on just play calling.
Well, I think it's very smart. He wants to find out, is being a head coach going to overwhelm him? It's his first time as head coach. I think if you looked at freddie-kitchens in retrospect, you would say being a head coach overwhelmed him early, and he was trying to call plays. So I think it's a very measured approach by Stefanski, and he's trying to work through it and find out, does it work this way? He has a very high opinion of Alex Van Pelt. That's one of the reasons he wanted him as offensive coordinator. He just has to find out, is he comfortable with him calling plays?
Yeah, I heard much of the press conference today, and I was taken by the fact that somebody asked Stefanski if it's fun calling plays. He says, no, the fun is winning, and if calling plays had anything to do with it, that's okay with him. He
said it was exciting. The one thing he said is calling plays was exciting. He said, when you're done, you kind of melt into the couch, and it's draining. And I guess that's what you want from your play caller.
Yeah. All right, so he comes here from Minneapolis, and he sees the roster, and he knows he has Beckham, and he has Landry, and guys who call attention to themselves at times. Do you think he has a plan how to deal with this as little things come up, or do you think he's going to wait and see exactly what does happen and then go accordingly?
I think from everything that I've gathered from talking to people here about Kevin Stefanski, he will be consistent with it. He's the same guy day in and day out, and I think that's probably the biggest compliment you can give a first-year head coach, is that you know what you're going to get, and it's if you step across the line, he's going to put you back where he wants you.
Which is not necessarily the case with freddie-kitchens.
I think that was one of the areas that cost freddie-kitchens last year as a head coach.
All right, so in Kitchens' case, he might have gotten the job partially because of his relationship with Baker-Mayfield. I would expect a different kind of relationship of respect and working together between Mayfield and Stefanski. Is that how you read it?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that is underplayed is Baker-Mayfield did not have a guy he could go to that, fixed what was ailing him as far as little things that developed throughout the season. Little things that were showing up in training camp fundamentally ended up becoming more and more and bigger things as you got into games, and it never got right because you had Freddie, who was a first-year head coach, calling plays, and you had Ryan Lindley, who's the quote-unquote quarterback coach, who was the first year as a quarterback coach. There was nobody that was coaching Baker Mayfield on the little things that ended up being big things throughout the year.
And the other thing, Dave, is that a head coach really can't be a friend. He can have a relationship, but he can't be a friend. He's got to be the head coach first before anything else happens.
Well, he has to be able to say, this is unacceptable, and I don't know that Freddie was ever able to do that with Baker Mayfield.
Right. All right. By the way, I didn't mention to the audience, you can call in. Our lines are open. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. Northeast Factory Direct is a place with 3 great locations plus a website that you can't miss. You got to check that out before you go to any of the 3 locations, which you see right there. Les Levine for Northeast Factory Direct. I've been talking about Alex for quite a while now. You've seen him on TV. This thing started out of his basement some 20 years ago, saving people a ton of money on this one dining room set. Now he's helping people save a lot of money on high-quality name-brand furniture, top-notch kitchen cabinets and countertops, industry-leading hot tubs, and much, much more. And he's so confident that his model, the low overhead buying in volume, so he can save big, meaningful numbers in the giant bare-boned warehouses and good people, it allows him to offer the best prices. And now he's offering a 1-year best price guarantee. I'm telling you, you can't get beat. It's now guaranteed. If you buy furniture or hot tubs from Northeast, within 1 year you find it advertised for less, Alex will refund the difference at northeastfactorydirect.com. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. You could explore your interests, find a program that puts you on the path to a bright future. Tri-C offers more than 1,000 courses and over 140 career and technical programs. Check it out at tri-c.edu for more information. When we come back, Dave's going to have a chance to talk with Ben Lieber, a former Vikings linebacker. We'll talk to him when we get back from Indianapolis. More Sports and Les Levine continues in a moment, exclusively on cleveland.com.
Celebrate Naturestone's 30-year anniversary with a free Naturestone floor. During 2020, we will be giving away 30 free floors to 30 very lucky customers to say thank you for making Naturestone the best concrete flooring solution for garages, basements, and more. Call or visit naturestone.com today to register to win, and we'll send you a copy of our new buyer's guide absolutely free. There's no purchase necessary. Winners will be chosen monthly. With over 30 million square feet installed for more than 60,000 customers, it's easy to see why I always say it's not just a floor. Wow, it's Naturestone.
Got your Ohio Lottery pick 3, I see.
Yup. Those glasses are hip.
Hip? Most people think I'm a square. But what's wrong with that? A box bet can increase your chances of winning. And what is a box? A square. There are so many ways to play. There's coming out the wazoo. Oh, shucks. Look at me yammering on. Put a lid in it, Picky Ricky. Play the Ohio Lottery Pick 3 today.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back to the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. I'm Dave Bacon. More Sports and Les-levine continues. We're pleased to be joined by Minnesota Vikings reporter Ben Lieber, was a linebacker in the NFL. And Ben, Kevin Stefanski, what do Browns fans need to know about this guy?
I love me some Kevin Stefanski. I tell you, so he and I have a long history together. I went to the Minnesota Vikings in 2006, and that was his first year under Brad Childress as well. And he was sort of his right-hand man. He's going to learn everything about the business, all the draft stuff, all the administrative stuff, and then worked his way in the coaching ranks from tight ends to running backs to quarterbacks to offensive coordinator. And so I've been with him for a long time. And I've gotten to know his wife, Michelle, his kids, and my kids go to the same school and all that stuff. So I'm very much connected and kind of know who this guy is. And to get to the question, he's a terrific man, first of all. I think in this business, and you guys have probably seen, there's a lot of fakeness. There's a lot of inauthentic people and a lot of fraudulent people. And he's a guy that is not that at all. The most sincere, the most genuine guy. Is he going to have a learning curve? For sure. I mean, every head coach will say, I thought I knew what a head coach was like until I actually sat in that chair. And he's going to have to deal with that. I mean, he saw it within 24 hours of his job. He's got to talk to Odell about handing money out to players. There are things at his job that he didn't have to deal with as a position coach and as a coordinator, but he's so even-keeled. He's so fair. I don't think that he's going to be one of those guys that's gonna cater to his star players. You're either with him or you're not. And I'm excited. I'm excited for you guys because he's a fantastic person.
It also seems like he realizes that there are things that he's going to have to learn just in the way he's approaching everything. Is that accurate? Do you sense that?
Yeah, I sense that. I think he knows with his dad being an executive in the NBA that and being so close with Childress when he was there, he knows that there's BS that comes across your desk. He knows that there's going to be stuff that you're going to have a to-do list of what I'd love to get this stuff done today, and then X, Y, and Z happens, and you got to deal with that first. I think he knows that, but again, he still has to go through that mental and emotional gymnastics of handling those situations. I've talked a lot about him as a person, which you have to have. But the other part of it is, what's he like as a coach? He's worked with Adrian Peterson. He's worked with Kyle Rudolph. He took Kirk Cousins, in which everybody thought he's hit his ceiling. They're like, oh, this is the guy. We already can paint the picture of what Kirk Cousins is. He's not going to be any more than that. And he got him to play at an elevated level that he's never played at before in his career. And Kirk Cousins is sort of a linear guy. A plus B has to equal C. And he took this guy that seems sort of rigid and made him more creative and made him think outside the box. And I think that's a true testament to him as a coach.
It also seems like the Vikings were very much grooming him for that next step. They brought in Gary Kubiak, somebody that will help him do what he needs to do to get to that next level. Did you sense that as well?
I did. He's one of those guys that, now keep in mind, he brought in both the Kubiaks. Everyone say like, oh, is he going to be looking over his shoulder? Is Gary going to take his spot? And it's like, no, you don't realize he saw an opportunity to strengthen his offense and strengthen this team by bringing in not only Clint, but also Gary to give him advice. And so he's one of those guys that's confident in what he's doing, but also humble enough to know that if I don't know it, and if there's an area that I need to learn, I'm going to bring in those people to help me out. So there's no braggadocious ego with this guy where he's going to stand on the table and say it's my way or the highway. He's going to say, all right, let's figure this out. If I don't have the answers, I'm going to bring somebody in that can help me figure out those answers, and that's what Gary did.
Fair to say he's a very, I don't want to say genius, but he's a forward-thinking offensive coach.
Yes, adaptable, flexible, and I think that's what you have to be in all of football. I mean, and it's not just football; it's any professional sports. I mean, every game is gonna lie on its own. There's gonna be new challenges. There's gonna be new X's and O's for every position and for every situation. And if you're rigid in your thinking, you're not gonna last. You've got to try things out. And I'm not gonna say he's perfect. There were some games. His game plan against the Green Bay Packers this last year at the end of the season wasn't great. We all kind of left scratching our heads of like, why did you do that? You only had Kirk outside the pocket one time when that was your MO throughout the whole season. So, of course, there was some growing pains, but he thought he saw something by keeping him in the pocket, and it just didn't work. But, so he's not perfect, but he knows that, all right, I made a mistake. I'm not going to make the mistake again.
You also are a guy that played in the league, and you mentioned, is he the kind of guy that you would have wanted to play for? Ben Lieber, the linebacker, would have wanted Kevin Stefanski as his head coach?
Absolutely, because he's the same guy every day. And that's all anybody wants. Whether you're a jerk, at least be a jerk all the time. If you're a nice guy, be a nice guy all the time. Don't do this thing where you're going to go up and down and you're going to cuss at me one moment and then put your arm around me the next day. That sort of volatility is not going to work. He's always consistent, and I would play for any consistent coach, whether you're on either side of the spectrum.
Ben Lieber, appreciate the time so very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Ben Lieber, he is with the Minnesota Vikings, talking about Kevin Stefanski. More sports and Les-Levine will return. I'm Dave Bacon reporting from the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. We'll be back after this timeout.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a four-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
If a piston makes it go, it's in this show. March Motor Mania takes over the 2020 Summit Racing Equipment IX Piston-powered Autorama. March 13th, 14th, and 15th at the IX Center. Show cars, antique trucks, construction equipment, hot rods in the asylum, motorcycles, military vehicles, and themed car clubs. New for 2020, the Throwdown Monster Trucks and the return of Fat Man's Invasion. With Euros, imports, sport compacts, and lowriders. Kids 12 and under are free. PistonPowerShow.com for details. Discount tickets on sale at Discount Drug Mart locations and Summit Racing Equipment in Talmadge.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant, whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smiley1.com.
Yeah, I would say in general, our focus is on any player, Nate, that we think can improve the roster. Now, specifically to the offensive line, we've talked a lot about being a QB-centric organization, and certainly every year our priority is going to be make sure to build a strong position group that can, keep Baker upright and give him time ultimately to throw the ball. This class in particular, again, has a lot of talented players across the different positions, and again, we're gonna identify guys that fit our profile, fit our organization, that can add a competition across both sides of the ball. Yeah, listen, we have obviously a number of veterans that are proven talent in the NFL. Obviously, Joe-Schobert's one, Christian Kirksey, and then we also have young players in Mac Wilson, Sione Takitaki, who showed promise as rookies. no different than any other position group, we're going to try and put the best talent on the field come September. Some of that is going to be from players who are going to take a step internally. Others, it may be external additions, but we're not going to bound ourselves to really any specific combination of players. We're going to look for the best options. Listen, so this is what I'll say about Joe. Joe is a good player and an even better person. We are going to spend some time with his representation this week to talk through, his contractual situation. He's obviously earned the right, to test the market if he deems that appropriate. But again, it's one of those situations where we like Joe. It obviously has to work for both sides. Has to work for us from a cost perspective with our long-term roster strategy, and obviously has to be a fit for Joe and his family as well. Yeah, that is one of the things that we believe at our core, that we are going to be aggressive in engaging in pre-market extensions for players that we view as pillar players, long-term fixtures within the organization. That does present its challenges, but again, those are challenges that we're going to have to face every year. Mm-hmm. So Dan, again, and not to sound like a broken record here, but we are going to look across every position to add talent and competition over the course of the next few months. Again, we have some good players who are already on the roster. Obviously, David-njoku. David didn't quite have the year that he anticipated this past offseason, past fall. But we still view David as a talented pass catcher and a guy that we expect to take a step forward in this upcoming year.
Dave Bacon is in Indianapolis with the NFL Scouting Combine. Dave, we just heard Andrew Berry, and one of the problems with having so many coaching changes and regime changes, you don't get to see the guy in action long enough to hear what he says and then decipher what he means. So this is our first chance as general manager for Andrew Berry. What did he mean by all that stuff?
He meant he's not going to tell you what he's thinking whatsoever. Again, to the point, he wouldn't even say what position groups in this draft he thought were deep and valuable. They're playing it real close to the vest. The one thing I think you can kind of glean from it, they realize they need to be strong up front. Even Kevin Stefanski said, starts up front with the offensive line and defensive line, always has, always will. You also heard him allude to the fact, being Andrew Berry, allude to the fact that they needed to address some issues with the current roster. It screams offensive line.
Yeah, it sure does. All right, so you have him talking a little bit about Schobert and talk about what a great guy he is and all that, and a better guy than he is a player, I think might have been, I don't know if they really meant that, but you got two different situations. You got Schobert, and a guy who's proven himself to be a good player in the Browns' former system, and then you got Njoku, who struggled the last 2 years. He's the kind of guy who can come out of this really in good shape.
Well, the Browns need tight ends. The question will be, can they get David-Njoku to do what they need him to do? They want tight ends that can block and catch the ball. Njoku has all the physical ability. The question is, can he put it to work on the football field? And I think Kevin Stefanski sees, something that he can mold into the type of tight end that he wants. Tight ends play a huge role in his offense. And I think Njoku, if he plays to his potential, hasn't done that yet. He has the ability to be the type of tight end that could really take a big leap in this offense.
I'm looking back and thinking back on what Ben Lieber said with you a couple of moments ago, former linebacker who played for Kevin Stefanski. I'm going to next time I'll give you a $100 bill, and I need you to walk around the lobby to find one person who says something bad about Kevin Stefanski and give him the $100.
Haven't heard it at all, and I've talked to several national guys as well, and we'll hear that coming up on Friday on the Weekend Winners Edition here. You can't find anybody who doesn't think this is an up-and-coming guy, and talk to probably 8 to 10 national guys that really have a high opinion of Kevin Stefanski. Now let's see, does he get the time to figure it out and implement it in Cleveland? That's a big question right now.
Do you think, in talking or listening to those 8 to 10 national guys, do you think that somehow, some way, Jimmy Haslam has resurrected his image or resurrected his way of doing business? Do you think that, I mean, if he hires Stefanski and he's the right guy, you got to give some credit to Jimmy Haslam?
Well, eventually, by the sheer numbers, they got to get it right at some point in time, don't they?
Yeah.
If in fact Kevin Stefanski becomes the guy that a lot of the national people think, yeah. But again, it sounds all good and well until it gets into the playing, on the field of play in September. It has to equate to wins, and it has to equate to wins pretty quickly.
Yeah, they haven't won or lost a game since. All right, you're there through the weekend on the Weekend Winners on Friday night on More Sports and Les-Levine. Tell me what we have the rest of the way tonight. Who are you going to be talking to?
We'll hear from some of the offensive line guys that the Browns are looking at. We'll also kind of put that into perspective with Bucky Brooks. He's a national guy on NFL Network that also break down who he thinks the best fit might be from those tackles. We'll hear from Chris Sims talking a little bit about Baker-Mayfield and how important a quarterback coach is to a guy that played the position in the NFL. We'll hear from Pete Prisco, who is a big fan of what the Browns have done with the front office, and a couple of other guys as well nationally. We'll also hear from Dan Lobby, who kind of will put everything into perspective. We'll hear more from Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry as well.
All right, we'll check back in with you momentarily. Dave Bacon in the middle of Indianapolis, Indiana, great city. They've done a terrific job, especially from all the sports venues that they have. I've been talking about Alex at Northeast Factory Direct for a long time, and one of the questions I get, and so do some of the other people, is do they have cheap stuff? Is that all they have? And the answer, of course, is no. Northeast Factory Direct carries high-quality name brand future. Yeah, you're going to pay less money, but it's not cheap stuff. It's furniture like Flex Steel in England, Klausner, and much more. Alex has a couple of really nice lines of custom furniture, great style selection, and many fabric options that you can get quicker than from the most expensive stores. And they also have Amish furniture made right here in Ohio, and you don't get higher quality than that. And it's cost so much less at Northeast Factory Direct. So if you have furniture on any budget, whether you're buying starter furniture for your first apartment or finishing a mansion, it's Northeast Factory Direct. They also carry high-quality hot tubs, pool tables, and game room sets at all 3 locations. But check out the website, northeastfactorydirect.com. Sokolowski's University Inn, Cleveland's oldest family-owned and operated restaurant, started back in 1923. Mike and Bernie's grandparents started it all, located in Tremont. Best view of downtown Cleveland, open 11 to 3, Monday through Friday for lunch, Friday and Saturday nights for dinner, beginning at 4 o'clock. We'll come back. Dave will talk with ESPN Cleveland's Tony Rizzo, the Riz, when we get back exclusively on cleveland.com.
Get Nature's Stone and never replace your basement flooring again. Your concrete is uneven, damp, and not healthy. Carpet and tile don't last, breed mold and mildew, and give worthless warranties. Nature's Stone permanently corrects uneven concrete and is not affected by dampness or moisture. And with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, there are no hidden maintenance costs. Act now and save up to 50% with our volume discount pricing. Must be installed by the end of February. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature's Stone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Welcome back to More Sports and Les Levine from the Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. I'm Dave Bacon. Pleased to be joined by Tony Rizzo from ESPN Cleveland. Riz, appreciate the time. What do you think? You've been through a lot of these regime changes, as many as I have.
You think Les and I both have been, it feels like an eternity. We call it the 100 Years War. David, I don't know. I'm gonna take my time with this, and we have a saying on the radio show, don't get hooked. I'm not going to get hooked, but I have to admit, I really like Kevin Stefanski. He comes across well. He's not too high, not too low, very intelligent guy. Seems like the right kind of guy for today's NFL player. And I teased him. I actually saw him today, and I teased him. I said, you know, you're unbeaten. He said, yeah, I'm also winless. So for now, you know, he's saying all the right things. We'll have to wait and see whether he can win games. As far as Andrew Berry goes, he's in a tough spot. 32 years old. He's a bright guy, though. He's really sharp. And I don't think people realize some of the GMs he's worked under, and specifically in Philadelphia, even John Dorsey, he's learned from some of the best. So I'm optimistic, but again, Browns fans are always optimistic.
When you look at this, a lot was made of alignment. To me, that says, boy, that was what they thought they were missing. Is that the kind of way you read it?
You are dead on. And I asked Andrew, what's the difference between last time around when you guys went 1-31 and this time? And he said that very thing. He goes, you know, the coaching staff, the front office, everybody's on board. Now, that's easy to talk about now in February, late February, but when something hits the fan in August or September, are they still going to be aligned? And that'll be the true test.
When you look at Andrew Berry, and we touched on this a little bit, a lot of people want to make him out to be an analytics guy. He was actually a football guy who worked for Bill Polian and the Colts here in Indianapolis.
So funny. I asked him, he played at Harvard, and I teased him. I said, did you win against Yale your senior year? He goes, we did. He's a nice mix. He's more of a scout than people think, but he does have a big analytics and analytical presence in the building, in the front office, and Paul DePodesta and others. So I want to see how he balances that out. I think that's going to be one of the keys to his success.
When you look at Stefanski, I know we're going back and forth there. What impressed you the most about him? You know, we both have the feel that he's kind of a big-time coaching guy. What do you like about him?
I liked his demeanor, and I liked the way he answered questions. He didn't promise anything. He just said, you know what, we're going to put our heads down, we're going to go to work. I think he sees that balance is the key. You know, today's player is so much different. Marty Schottenheimer, I don't think, could have coached in today's NFL. It's a different kid that you're coaching, and most of them are kids. You've got to combine a little kick in the butt with a little hug, and I think he's going to do that well. But he's also a no-nonsense guy, and he lets you know that the minute you meet him. You know, he's not a kind of guy that, you know, players are going to be running off the field screaming at. I don't see that happening. And, you know, the discipline thing was much needed here.
And it seems like they kind of swung all the 180 degrees, if you will, and they probably needed to.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I saw Freddie-Kitchens last night at dinner, and I still feel for him in that professionally, lifestyle, he's set for life, kids. Don't feel that bad for Freddie. But professionally, I fell for him. A lot of it was his fault, but not everything. There were some things that weren't in place that I feel like now are in place, so hopefully this coach will be more successful.
So, again, it's got to be a wait-and-see approach. Do you kind of feel, though, that signs are pointing towards something might be coming together finally?
Well, Dave, I think we've got a roster that can win, and win now. A couple of bounces of the ball last year, and you might have won 8, 9, 10 games. So, yeah, I do think we're actually in a better place than we were when the season ended, and really that's all you can ask for.
Tony Rizzo, appreciate the time.
David, always a pleasure. Please tell Les. Love you, Les.
Tony Rizzo from ESPN Cleveland. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. We'll have more of More Sports and Les Levine here on cleveland.com. Stay with us.
Get Nature Stone and never replace your garage flooring again. Your concrete is cracked, uneven, and not safe. Paints and poly coatings don't last, are slippery, and give worthless warranties. Nature Stone permanently corrects cracked, uneven concrete, eliminates slipping hazards, and is easy to clean. And with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, there are no hidden maintenance costs. Act now and save up to 50% with our volume discount pricing. Must be installed by the end of February. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
If a piston makes it go, it's in this show. March Motor Mania takes over the 2020 Summit Racing Equipment IX piston-powered Autorama. March 13th, 14th, and 15th at the IX Center. Show cars, antique trucks, construction equipment, hot rods in the asylum, motorcycles, military vehicles, and themed car clubs. New for 2020, the Throwdown Monster Trucks and the return of Fat Man's Invasion. With Euros, imports, sport compacts, and lowriders. Kids 12 and under are free. PistonPowerShow.com for details. Discount tickets on sale at Discount Drug Mart locations and Summit Racing Equipment in Talmadge.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Tomorrow night, the D-Man, Dennis Maniloff from WTAM Radio joins us. You see us live from 6 until 7 Eastern Time. That's Monday through Friday. Dave Bacon, of course, takes that on Friday night with the Weekend Winter Show. And you can archive us any time of the day or night. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/more-sports-and-les-levine with new content posted each and every day. 216-575-0403 if you'd like to get in before we close up shop tonight. Questions for Dave Bacon or anybody else. Thanks to Tony Rizzo for joining us. Worked with Tony about 25 years ago. Started at, we both were at WHK, and I'm sure it's the same with him, but I get comments from people every week about how good WHK was back in the day. So we appreciate Riz taking the time to join us tonight. And, of course, Dave Bacon out at Indianapolis. You got the More Sports and Les Levine expense account going tonight at, I don't know, where are you going to be?
Buffalo Wild Wings, I think. Again.
Well, that's good. That's good. But you got some great steakhouses in Indianapolis. But you're going to be working. I'm a wing guy,
you know that.
Yeah, that's true. You're going to be working hard into the night. So what did you learn from your experience today, the first day of the combine activities?
I learned that Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry aren't going to tell us a whole lot about what they're thinking. Now, the one thing they did say is Andrew Berry kind of clarified being aggressive. So what he said that is it doesn't mean they're going to make a big splash in free agency, but it means that when they target somebody and identify somebody as a guy that can come in and help, they're going to go and be aggressive and try to get him signed at the price they feel fits their worth to the big picture. So it's a very methodical approach. I get where he's going. It was a little surprising at how close to the vest both Stefanski and Andrew Berry were playing it as far as just the draft class in general. They didn't want to talk about any of their own players that they were going to try to extend or sign. They did say they would try to extend players before they became available for free agency. So you kind of get the idea they're playing a little bit of catch-up, but they feel pretty good about where they were.
Correct me if I'm right or wrong with this feeling about it, what I get in the initial experience with these guys coming on board now. It seems to me normally when there's a quick turnaround in a franchise, the new GM and coach come in and they just wave a swath through the middle of everything and they just get rid of guys because they're not their guys. It's a little different because Andrew Berry, some of the guys from 2, 3, 4 years ago were his guys, or at least he was part of it. So it doesn't look to me like the intent is to just clean house and fill spots with guys they knew before. It seems to be it's more methodical, and they might keep more people than you would expect.
I would agree, and I think Joe-Schobert's probably one of the guys that jumps out as a guy. Andrew Berry was part of the front office that drafted him and thought highly of him. you got the feeling that John Dorsey and the regime last year kind of soured on Schobert, and then that there wasn't much of a chance that he was going to be re-signed. And now it looks like there's a better chance. I don't know that it's 50-50. It's going to really depend on what type of offer that Joe Schobert gets out on the free agent market. And that's one of the things that Andrew Berry said. It has to make sense for both sides. The other thing that kind of strikes me, I think Kevin Stefanski has a better idea of what he wants this offense to look like. I don't think the Browns had a clue what they wanted their offense to look like. There wasn't an identity, and I kept saying that in week 9, 10, 11, 12. The Browns didn't have an identity. I think it will become pretty clear pretty early what the identity of Kevin Stefanski's offense will be. And along those lines, they're going to have to find probably 3 guys that can start along the offensive line, and they're going to have to find a couple of tight ends that can run block and also stretch the field and be effective pass receivers.
By what you're saying, I sense that they have more in the workings here than maybe they thought they did. You know, when you get a new coach, you get a new GM. Again, going back to what I said earlier, the first thought is maybe clean house. My guess is they've got more talent in the cupboard than they thought they did.
Well, I think they definitely have more talent than there has been in years past. The question is, can the talent they have translate into the offense that Kevin Stefanski wants and the defense Joe Woods wants? You know, the question would be offensive line. And they've got to get some big guys that can block, that can move, because the outside zone that Stefanski wants to run and ran with the Vikings, they don't have a lot of guys that played last year that can be effective in that style of offense.
No, but there are free agent potentials. There are draft potentials. Any idea which way they're going to go, or are they going to just wait and see how the first 9 spots go?
You know, I would be surprised if they didn't take an offensive lineman at 10. They could also trade down and acquire. And I know I can hear Browns fans screaming already based on, you know, Andrew Berry and Sashi Brown trading down when they tore this roster down. Different time. It really is a different time, a different mindset. And we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But they're on the clock now. So they have to find somebody that can make a big impact at 10. The only way I don't think they potentially go offensive lineman is if somebody like Isaiah Simmons, who is a freakishly talented linebacker safety hybrid, if he somehow slides down to 10, they might be tempted to take him just because he is that kind of new age safety linebacker hybrid that has really popped the last couple of years in the NFL.
All right, Friday night you've got the Weekend Winners show, and what'll you have there?
We'll hear about some of those tackles. We'll hear from those tackles, and we'll also hear who the Browns might be targeting. We'll hear from Field Yates, another national guy, just kind of the perspective, a younger guy who's really an up-and-comer with ESPN, just how he feels the Browns have put this together with Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. We'll also hear from Pete Prisco, kind of an old-school guy. He's a big fan of Kevin Stefanski, and he's a guy that doesn't mince words very well, very opinionated, and has not been a big fan of what the Browns have done. He seems to think like this could work for him.
So, again, you can't find a guy to say something nasty about anybody.
You really can't. And I guess that's the time of year it is, but let's hope they're right this time.
All right, great job as always, Dave, and we'll see you on Friday night.
Sounds good. I appreciate it, Les.
Okay, Dave Bacon with the Weekend Winners coming up on Friday night. Great job gathering the intel from Indianapolis. A lot of activity starting to happen tonight and into tomorrow when all the combine real work gets underway. And of course, what the difference is in previous years, I think the meetings that they have, the interviews that they have, the teams and coaches with their potential draft picks, I think that's now what this combine is all about, as opposed to these great record-breaking performances in shorts. All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks to Dave Bacon and Mike Bacon in Indianapolis. Great job as always. Tomorrow night, the D-Man Dennis Maniloff will join us, and we'll take your phone calls all night. And we'll have somebody else on Thursday. Of all the shows I've ever done, this was the most recent.